also show that you have already vaccinations. But situation are improving, I think. But you know, this we just passed the winter season, and it is coming the summer, and summer here is very hot. So we hope that the summertime, the number of affected case will be drastically fall down.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, maybe we can start our meeting today. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Dr. Muhammad Fouad bin Amin and all participants, students of International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance. Today we will have the course. The topic is microfinance, microfinance institutions and viability of wakaf in microfinance institution. And Alhamdulillah, speakers, Mr. Muhammad Fouad bin Amin will present the interesting topic. And to start our meeting, so we start by pray basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, the class will start, and time for yours, Mr. Muhammad Fouad bin Amin. Okay, please.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Head of the Department. I appreciate that you invite me to have lecture on this. Sorry, is my voice is clear? I get some sound from. Is it saying to me? Can you just speak in English, because I cannot understand?
Okay, please, Mr. You can start the presentations.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, as I mentioned that this is my pleasure to have a class with and share my knowledge on this these topics. I guess that you can see the screen. Is it viewable? Can you see my class screen, the monitor screen? Okay, I hope that you are actually. I am sharing the screen. So today we are going to discuss about the microfinance institutions and viability of work-based Islamic microfinance programs. So in these presentations, I am going to show you basically two major institutions in Islam or Islamic economics, which is Waqf and Islamic microfinance. But before we discuss the Islamic microfinance, I will shed some light on microfinance, because the concept of Islamic microfinance come from microfinance. So if I can divide my discussions in basically three major parts, two major parts, Islamic microfinance and Waqf, and then my major focus will be on also integrated work-based Islamic microfinance model. Okay, and if you have any questions, okay, is segment that I complete, I will ask you if you have any questions, then you can just pause your question to me. Inshallah, I will be able to answer your questions. Okay, and since I'm not from Malaysia or from Indonesia, so please, if you have any questions, please speak try in English questions, okay, so that I can understand. Okay, what is if I say the background of microfinance? So the concept of microfinance, even though we know formally after maybe it is 2000s onward, but the concept was actually being practiced by 18th and 19th centuries in European countries, where where there are a lot of problems, we can say socio-economic problem. There are a lot of populations, the urbanizations are increasing, so extra pressure was there. So there is a lack of also in infrastructure, social security, okay, and lack of finance, most importantly. So in order to tackle that problem, so the European central government, they introduce many financial packages to support that kind of group. So we can also come to know that in Germany, okay, there is a communal fund. So there is a communal fund was created in Germany, okay, in 1778. So we can see that the concept of giving money or giving credit to the poor people was not new. It was being practiced by many government or many authority since long centuries. Excuse me, I'm hearing some sound. Are you discussing, or if you have any questions? Okay, so in 1970, by 1970s, we can see that there's a major shift in the idea of giving money to the poor, because previously it was given, as we have seen, 18th century, 19th centuries, even the early 1990s in Latin American poor country, they use this concept of credit, okay, credit or money to the poor people who are living in the rural area, who are actually relying on agro-based activities, okay, the farmer class. So they need support, but the problem was that when you are giving money to the poor, to them, actually there was no systematic or organized way of giving or supporting financial support. So in 1970s, you know that the most famous concept by which Dr. Muhammad Yunus, who won the Nobel Prize in 2006, who actually started his idea of microcredit. Okay, so before microfinance, the word microcredit was being practiced, and he was a professor in Chittagong University in Bangladesh. He not only he not only give the idea, okay, give the idea how it will work. He started practically in the classroom. He has given the lesson that what is the principle or modus operandi of the microcredit, how it will work. At the same time, he also started the concept. So that is why since long times, around 1970s, until 2006, this becomes successful, and this microcredit was being implemented or replicated by many countries, okay, including Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries around, across the globe. So this is the short background of, we can say, the microcredit or finance or the money that given to the poor people. Now, the concept of microfinance come into the scene, where microcredit was only focusing on the money, okay, but later on it is being observed that only money is not sufficient. Giving money to the people, to the poor people, is not sufficient. They need to also know how to save the money. If they are doing agro business, and you know, the agro business is very vulnerable sectors, okay. In every country, agricultural sector is the first sector that is hurt by the any natural calamities, or the flood, drought, or any sort of calamities. Okay. Okay, so because of that calamities, in order to come across or come over that problem, the insurance concept also come. So from the credit, now the savings, then the insurance. So it all comes with a package. Okay, so the poor people, okay, who are living below the poverty line, they are the potential candidate for microfinance institutions, who not only get the credit, who not only get the monetary support, they are also kind of financial transactions they are doing with the institutions, so that there is a saving behavior among them. We know that in the economics there is a huge role of savings. Okay, savings also is important for capital accumulations. Okay, and capital accumulations is also helpful for the investment in the micro level as well as in the macro level. So I guess that in this in this class of under the microeconomics, this microfinance, even though it has it is the micro concept, okay, the microeconomy, but it has impact on the macroeconomy, because when people are get benefited from these institutions, microfinance institutions, okay, when the rural people or in several states or districts, peoples are changing their lifestyles and come across their poverty curves, then actually it is helping to increase the income, and income generating activities and production are increasing, so it impacts positively on the national output as well. So anyway, the concept of microfinance, that is how it expanded, because it demands the expansions. Only saving, only credit is not sufficient. So that is why it was moving from the credit to savings and insurance to the low income peoples. And it is also important thing is that it creates the social value. Social value, we can call this social value as the social capital. The social capital is also very important, because these poor people, okay, they don't have any collateral. They cannot go to the bank and apply for the loan. So what is the security? What is the security on that basis that institutions will give them the money? Because I guess that later on we'll see that there are different types of microfinance institutions. Sometimes institutions are charity-based institutions, non-profit institutions, but sometimes, most of the cases, we have seen that across the globe, the majority of microfinance institutions are profit-oriented. Okay, because they have their fund. Okay, either local fund, government fund, or foreign funds. So they have to get back the fund. So they need the security in terms of the money that they are investing through microfinance. They will get it back on time. Okay, but what is the security? So security is in the form of social capital, social value, because this concept of microfinance institutions, okay, through group lending, the poor are receiving money in the form of credit. Okay, and microfinance institutions, they need some security, and they create the social value. Okay, they create the social capital. So social capital are very important, because when people are actually, or I can say the borrower, okay, borrower or member of microfinance institutions are receiving fund or money on group basis. Okay, this is very important. Okay, because the microfinance concept is based on the social value, and social value comes from the concept of group-based lending. Okay, group-based transactions. So group means that normally there is every group, there is there are different types of group in different countries, but average the ideal group which is invented or proposed by Dr. Muhammad Yunus is 5 members. Okay, I don't know why 5, but usually the 5 members are in a group, and they are all liable. Okay, they themselves are collateral for each other. So if someone is actually loitering, or someone is not paying their loan on time, so their colleagues or their co-group members can actually push them. So this is a social capital. So based on the concept of social value and social capital, this microfinance, okay, they become very much popular, and it was expanding across the world. And this social capital, social value, decrease the risk. Okay, this decrease the risk for the microfinance provider, but it at the same time it also help them to make the dynamics of the models, to dynamics of the group, meaning that in the first year, they can pay back their loan, then they can apply for the second time, then third time, fourth time. Okay, this is how they can increase their income. And when income is increased, we know that it will affect their savings can be increases, they can invest more, and also consumption will also make some positive impact. So there are basically few types of microfinance institution. I am not going in line by line. Okay, I put many words under the term. This is for your understanding, because I know that this concept may not be familiar to you. So this slide is a like explanatory slide, I can say, but I'm not going in details of the line by line discussions, but whatever I am discussing, it will, I guess, cover the gist of the paragraph or the theme. So microfinance, okay, we can comprise this financial and non-financial services. The microfinance institutions, it provides to the poor people financial and non-financial services. Financial services will be including the microcredit or loan, we can say microfinance, savings and micro insurance. And non-financial product, or we can say non-financial part of the microfinance program, is covering their health security, how they will build up their skills, trainings, how they will market their products or their produced products, and the management capacity. In some cases, they will give some training on educations. Okay, overall, how they can be self-reliant, self-confident development. Okay, and they can improve their businesses as well. So this is the two types of services. We can classify the microfinance in that way. What is the goal of the microfinance institutions? So if I look back to the innovations or idea proposed by Dr. Muhammad Yunus in 1970s, actually it is 1972 or 1973. From 1972 and 3, he invented this microcredit. But that credit usually goes to the poor peoples. Okay, poor people, and majority of the poor, it gives the money gives to the women. The women, because these are the women, they are deprived. Okay, they are not included in the formal job sector. Okay, they are mostly staying in the home. So we know that in every country the ratio of male and female is around 50. Okay, more or less 50 and 50 and around 50. So they are the most important contributor of the economy, but they have less direct contributions for the production of goods and services. So this idea of microcredit, they include the empowerment of the woman. Okay, not only the poorest of the poor, but also empowerment of the poor people, so that they can be self-employed. They call it the self-help groups. Okay, sometimes it is termed in different way, but in different country there is a different name of the groups, but normally it is a self-help groups. So that the group members in this group, in this groups, each members are actually helping themselves. Okay, so that is why it is a self-help group. It is called. It is not only their financing, because this is also learning process. They are also educating the poor. How can they manage the fund? How can they bring the economic changes as well as social changes? As I mentioned, it is also especially for the women. And microcredit and microfinance, it is also a kind of technology. That technology, we know in the technology is a method. Okay, technology is not only that it is a machineries or tools, it is a method. How it is a production method, for example. In that case, microfinance is also a lending technology, lending technique. How the borrower will receive the money in the form of loan from the institutions, how they will better utilize it in a productive way. Okay, how they will repay this to the institutions, so that there is a good friendly relationship between the funder and the borrowers, so that they can apply for the loan for the future. So this is also giving them this kind of training to the poor. So what are the characteristics? So there are many characteristics of microfinance institutions, but the most important characteristics I put it here, which is the size of the loan. Okay, normally the microfinance institutions provide very small loan package, and how small is small, it depends on the country. Okay, it depends on the purchasing power, but and it is not such a little amount that they cannot do anything, but it is the amount that they can at least start up something. Okay, it is a petty business, agricultural business, or agricultural plantations. There are many forms of businesses, small businesses. So the money they receive uh, is to some extent is adequate for running a small business. Okay, if not a greater or a medium level of entrepreneurship, but because this is the beginning of the journey. This is the beginning of the journey for the poor who don't know how to manage the money, who don't know how to utilize the money. So that is why if you give them the money at large amount in their hand in the beginning, then probably they will spoil it, they will misutilize it, they will not be make the best use of the fund. That is why they start with giving a small amount of loan so that they can know how to invest it in a how to make the best use of fund with a proper time management with their skills. Okay, and second type of characteristics is terms and conditions, and we know that this is very easy terms and conditions. There is no certain hard and fast rule, but of course the normally the people who are excluded from the banking services, the poor people who have no for example in certain country they set some criteria who can be the potential candidate for microfinance loan. One of the criteria is their income should be below than the poverty level income, which is less than $2.50, and they cannot be the landowners. Okay, they should not be have any business, they cannot be linking with any formal financial institutions like bank. Okay, these are the primary criteria of selecting the borrower for microfinance institutions. So normally, in generally speaking, the terms and conditions are very easy for them. And third characteristics is that uh, it also gives them the educational programs. Okay, when they meet, okay, on weekly basis. So when on a certain in every month, all the group members meet together. Okay, so there is a mass gathering. So on the mass gathering, there is a expert on certain field, like someone will give them the training for accounting or fund management. Someone will give them the cash flow management or technical and professional skill. For example, if someone is good doing agro business, poultry, or dairy or plantations, okay, or a small business, they will get some educations through the educational programs, and this educational program is inbuilt under the microfinance program. So the participants or borrower of microfinance institutions or programs can get benefited from these educational programs. Now, what are the challenges of microfinance institutions? So one of the most important challenges is cost of outreach. As I mentioned that these microfinance institutions go to the poor people who are living in the remote area, in the rural area. They are unbankable because they have lack of access to the formal institutions because of many factors, and one of the factors is their educations. Another factor is the collateral that we have already discussed. So for the microfinance institutions, it is very costly, because this time the institution is going to the door of the borrower. Remember, okay, usually the borrowers are going to the banking institutions for getting the loan, but microfinance institution is opposite. Microfinance institutions are going to the door of the borrowers. So naturally it is very costly for the microfinance provider or the programs who are providing microfinance. Lack of scalability, this is another problem, because when it is also related to the performance and the growth of the microfinance institutions. If the microfinance institutions are not growing at a high rate, with maintaining their capitalizations within their, and also with keeping consistency with their profitability, then they cannot increase. And if they cannot increase, and we know they will be not able to get the economies of a scale, and this kind of problem will affect their profit. If they affect their profit, they cannot give the microfinance services at a low cost. So that is why we notice that some microfinance institutions, their cost is very high. Cost means that they charge very high rate of interest, okay, because the lack of scalability and cost of outreach. Okay, quality of self-help group. This is another challenge. So most of the challenges that we are discussing here, it is the challenges faced by the microfinance provider who are providing microfinance institutions. So, and of course, when the poor peoples are composed in different members and they form groups, and naturally all the groups are not the same in quality. Okay, there is a different age structures, there is a different skill level. Okay, so there is also group dynamics are also changing, meaning that after 5 years, after 2 years, 3 years, the group members, some of them group member will be dropping, some new group members will be adding. So these are called group dynamics, so which is changing over the periods. So the factors of the group members, the quality or the nature of the group members are also changing over the years. So this may not be able to cope with the principle of microfinance providers, because this might also harm to their micro lending programs. But this may also some positive effects. This may have some positive effects. So every aspect that we discuss, if we look at the negative aspect, it is their challenge. But if we put all these factors, if for example, if they can reduce the cost of outreach, then this is their benefit. If they can come across this scalability problem, that this is also helpful to enjoy their economies of scale, and also improving the group quality. So this is, for example, these challenges. If they can overcome these challenges, then this can be the prospects of the microfinance institutions. There are some other challenges like geographic factors. Okay, geographic factors, we know that people are at different area, even though in the same country, people are locating in different area, their habit, their characters are different. So when their characters are different, so it will also replicate when they deal with the microfinance institutions. Okay, diverse business models. So this is also very important, because microfinance institutions cannot have the single model, because it depends on the group members' personal choice, and the preferences, that what method they will employ in their businesses, what item that they should be producing. Okay, what technique in their production they will adopt. So all are very much related to the challenges of the microfinance institution. And high transaction cost is also related to the outreach problem, because we know that transaction cost, when they can come across this problem, cost of outreach, they can like financial inclusiveness, we discuss sometimes in some other topics. So when the many people are included in the program, then actually the transaction cost is low. But if only few people are, for example, in a small village, if north, south, east, west, there are four side, and there are only 4 groups, then of course there are huge transaction cost for the microfinance providers, because the microfinance official will go to each of the groups and get the information, collect the money, okay, and organize the meetings, organize the program. That is very costly. But if in a 4 region, north, south, east, west of a district or a state, there are many groups, so that is also reducing their transaction cost. Security is also a challenge for them, because for the officials, particularly the institutional officials, they are leading, they are taking some money, okay, they are handling some money, they are giving the actually banking services, we can say the mobile banking services. Sometimes we notice that some microfinance institutions, they cannot set up the office, they cannot set up many branches. So what they can do, they do it, they shift all the responsibility to a manager, okay, to the area manager. So area manager is taking the responsibility of sharing or distributing the money, disbursement of the loan to the group members. So in some cases it is very a kind of security issues. Limited budget is another problem for the microfinance institutions. Not all the countries are facing the problems. Later on we'll see some examples of many countries, and the fund is not problem, but some countries in Africa, some countries in South Asia, the fund is a problem. Like India, there is some rural area, there is a problem for the microfinance institutions. So I'm not talking about the limited budget for the borrower. Here we are talking about a limited budget for the institutions, the microfinance program. So there are many international donors. There are many international donors, but they don't actually, there is some criteria. They, before they make the money as lending to the microfinance institution, the microfinance institution has to prove that they are a very efficient institutions, so that they can give back the money to the international donors. And also for sometimes the local government or government institutions, okay, government, there's some budget allocation for the microfinance institutions, so that microfinance institutions can get the money from the government in the form of loan, which is with a very low terms and conditions, and we can say with a very low interest. Now, with this concept of microfinance institutions, we know that type, challenge, prospects, we know the background. So the main thing that we know is cost is the main things for the both party from this. So out of the many challenges, one of the key challenges is the managing the fund, okay, and cost of fund, use of fund, okay. These are very important, and these are very related to all types of challenges that we discuss. So in order to, and we know that when you discuss this microfinance institutions with the limited budget, I said that the microfinance institutions can get the money from the foreign donors, foreign fund supplier, as well as local government and government. But in most cases it is given on interest, which in Islam it is directly prohibited. We cannot involve any transaction which is related to interest. That is why we have the idea of microfinance concept. So the philosophy of microfinance, okay, it relies on basically 4 elements, because in Islam we know that whenever we make any transactions, it has to be it has to be preserved certain characteristics, like it cannot be dealing with any form of riba, okay. And on type of riba is interest, because there are many forms of riba. One form of riba is interest. And second thing is that risk sharing, okay. This is also very important, risk sharing, because conventional microfinance institutions that we discuss, they mitigate the risk, okay. They reduce the risk by selecting the appropriate borrower, the selecting, and by some measure they mitigate the risk, but they reduce the risk, but they don't share the risk. They means the microfinance institutions don't share the risk with the borrower, which is a problem, because as I mentioned that in most of the cases agro business are related, has close relation with environment, okay. And every country there is always, every year there is some natural calamities, and these are the poor people who are attacked, who are being that who are facing the tragedy, the first forefront. So if there is no arrangement for risk sharing, then if anything goes wrong with their agro business, then they're in great trouble. They are at stake. So they have to get the money back to the institution, but institution is not taking any risk and responsibility of the risk of the money that they have given to the poor. But in that case, we can see that Islamic microfinance, the philosophy of Islamic financial transaction is also telling us that risk sharing element is very, very effective. So this is the second element. Third element is time value of money. Okay, time value of money is that conventional economics is saying that money is termed as the commodity. Okay, when you go to the bank is giving you money, so bank consider money as the commodity. That is why you can get the money from the bank in the form of borrowing, and you are paying the interest. So bank is selling money to you. Okay, money, paper money is just as a product from the conventional economics. So conventional economics, microfinance, microcredit, that is also coming from the same philosophy. But Islamic microfinance should be following the rule of Islamic law, Islamic Sharia. And Islamic Sharia is telling us that the transaction, Islamic financial transaction or instruments, if we apply it in microfinance, it has to be free from these four elements: for provision of riba, risk sharing, and third most important thing, that money cannot be considered as the commodity, or you cannot just calculate the time value of money, that you invest the money and after certain period of time you will get back the money with some increment, which is interest. You cannot play this role in Islamic law or Islamic finance, and here we can say under Islamic microfinance. And fourth element is prohibition of gharar. Okay, gharar or uncertainty. Risk and uncertainty, these are different things. Okay, so we know that the uncertainty, you don't know something. Okay, you don't know something, you don't know what will be the number of fruits in your tree. You don't know what is inside your pond or river. You cannot count the fish. Okay, so this is uncertainty. So if you have this kind of uncertain situation, you cannot sell this. Okay, you cannot sell this kind of product. So later on we'll see there are certain products available for microfinance, Islamic microfinance, I can say, where you cannot apply this. So when you are applying Islamic microfinance, you have to make sure that you are fulfilling this criteria. So these are the
Islamic. Fouad, may I ask?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, Dr. Fouad, sorry for disturbing your presentations.
No,
I have just a question. Really. Yeah. So regarding with the Islamic microfinance that you said just now, that it must be avoiding the gharar, maisir, and riba. But right now we have seen together, we know together that every single transaction that taken by either microfinance or not microfinance, they are dealing with the money or fiat money as medium of exchange, isn't it? So even though we are using the Islamic transactions, but the core principle, the core instrument used in order to execute the transactions using the money, that time by time the value is depreciated or the value is declining. So how you respond this condition, this reality, so that this Islamic microfinance is really Islamic, according to your understanding? Thank you, Dr. Fouad.
Yes, Dr. Daimas, yeah, you are raising a very important question, and you know, this is the Islamic monetary movement. They want to go back to the gold dinar, which was the golden time of Islamic civilization history. So, you know, after the Bretton Woods institutions, we know that the money was created, and the dollar, everything we are based on dollar, and dollar was backed by gold, and central bank or Federal Reserve Bank can print money as many as they like. So it is affecting other country, and other countries also following the paper money. And actually, every country, the paper money should be backed by some real transactions or real goods, like any metal, or we can say gold or dinars or oil or whatever. But yeah, that makes a problem. That makes a problem, and that is probably one of the reason. That is probably one of the reason why this Islamic microfinance is not fully effective. So we are actually Islamize the microfinance. What sort of Islamizations here? We are Islamizing the process, okay, the organizations or method of giving loan, or but in element, okay, element is the monetary transaction, is the element which is the paper currency. Okay, paper currency is problematic because when you are giving loan, I guess that you are taking part of risk sharing, okay, either mudaraba, musharaka, okay, murabaha, izara, that we'll see later on. Any of the transaction that you adopt, but at the same time, people, both party, okay, institutions as well as borrower are losing, because we see that every year that because of inflation there is a depreciations and currency depreciation. At the same time, inflationary pressure is vulnerating the both party, okay, economic position of both party. So that is actually the main reason, okay, I can say, because of the still since we cannot come out from the trap of this financial global monetary system. That is the main reason, I can say, why Islamic microfinance is not fully effective. So it is, it is our duty to actually to avoid that kind of paper currency and to follow the gold dinar or anything which has some value, okay, which has some real value. So yes, so my concern is that my opinion is that you are absolutely right. So even though some people are getting out of poverty, okay, better, they have better conditions, better lifestyle, better consumption, better investment, better business, but that better is how better? We can say it is slightly or more or less better than the conventional microfinance, but they could be more better. They could be more better. So this is kind of this kind of monetary system. Is a modern slavery. They are making modern slavery. So poor people are getting loan, and the Islamic microfinance institutions, they are also giving loan on the basis of this Islamic principle. But both borrower and lender under Islamic principle, actually we are serving the world monetary economist or the people who are controlling the currency. Okay, we are indirectly serving them, because at the end of the day we are going to the market when we are buying our goods in terms of in the money, when we are asking some any goods, we are exchanging with money which has no base, which has no value, which is not backed by any real transaction. So that is that is the end. We can say that our optimistic, we should be very optimistic that we should be going to that level of spirit in Islam. So anyway, I think in answering the questions, we have discussed many things related to some of the transactions, some of the things, but this is the main philosophy of Islamic finance. But if we want to implement the Islamic finance, we have to also make sure that at least these 4 elements are not be included in the transaction. So this will help to increase the productivity. This will of course the poverty alleviation rate will be higher, because people are both the institutions and both the borrowers, they are sharing the risk. So if anything happen, if any mishappening, any misconduct or any diverse situation happen in the environmental business, both parties are sharing. So this is a win-win situations for both of the countries. So there will be equitable distribution of income, and also at the end there it will increase for sustainable economic development in an Islamic economy. So this is the philosophical foundation that we have to make sure that we whatever we do, we have to make sure that at least these 4 things are not included. So there are some cases in Muslim countries where Islamic microfinance are successful. I am not going in details. In the case of Bangladesh, under Islamic Bank Bangladesh Limited, it has a window which is rural development scheme. It is successful because this RDS is competing with Grameen Bank. Okay, so Grameen Bank, we know that Dr. Muhammad Yunus, his initiative, and he got the Nobel Prize. So in order to compete with conventional microfinance or microcredit institutions, the Islamic microfinance institution has to be very much efficient. Otherwise, at the end of the day, not all the people are truly Islamic, and not all the people are truly Islamically motivated. Okay, their Islamic spirit might be diminishing when they notice that cost of fund is very high. So that is why the rural development scheme is fighting, and it is, alhamdulillah, that is very good because it gets support from the Islamic Bank Bangladesh Limited. So there are, we can say this is the second or third largest microfinance provider in Islamic Bank, under Islamic Bank in Bangladesh. But again, there are many criticisms because it is saying that around 70 or 80% of the transaction is made by Murabaha, and we know that Murabaha is a concept which is a cost plus kind of transaction where the institutions will buy something and for example 10,000 rupee, and then the cost is 2,000, so 12,000. So borrower has to pay the 12,000 after a certain period of time. So maybe on 1 year with 50 weekly installments. So if some borrower can pay early, they can get some rebate. So this is normally the situation, but they should be, the Islamic banking institutions should be participating more on the equity based type of finance, not the debt based. Okay, like we can say that musharaka, okay, izara, that are the mostly recommended, but why they are not doing, because they said that they are still, it is costly, this is risky. But you know, the Islamic microfinance institutions, they should be now, because their journey is not very new. Okay, they have already started for many years, so they should be coming out from the Murabaha syndrome. Okay, Murabaha is a very questionable kind of Islamic transaction, which is discouraged by majority of the ulama and the Sharia scholars. So Sharia scholars are putting more emphasis on equity based or partnership based kind of transactions with the financial institutions, including the Islamic microfinance. So in Pakistan, we know that in 1980s they started under the Aga Khan Rural Support Program. But again, we know that there is another program that is called Okhwat. Okay, it is a famous Islamic microfinance provider in Pakistan. They are also giving the money based on Qardul Hassan and other diversified products that we have shown earlier. So that Okhwat is very popular in Pakistan. But I guess that the RDS and the Okhwat is doing far more better than the RDS compared to other Islamic microfinance institutions. But you should know that in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, there are many, and as well as India, there are many other microfinance institutions. Okay, mostly they are conventional. Mostly we know the BRAC, we know the ASHA. There are many other, but this BRAC and ASHA in Bangladesh are after Grameen Bank. These are the two notable NGO that are providing microcredit, and now they are providing microfinance. But there are, because in Bangladesh there are many microfinance institutions, that is why competition is very heavy. So in a perfectly competitive market, we know that price is very important. Price here is, for example, cost of fund. So the big institutions can dominate because they can survive even though with a small cost of fund, like I can say they are charging interest. But where Islamic microfinance institution, which is called their profit or loss, their rate is slightly higher. Okay, that might be one of the reasons why not all the people are supporting, even though we have majority of the populations in Bangladesh, Pakistan, 90% of the populations are Muslims. But again, as I mentioned that when it is the questions on cost or fund, then most of them are not exhibiting their true Islamic behavior. Okay, in Malaysia, we know that Amana Ikhtiar, along with Takun and Ehsan Mazu Malaysia, they are actually providing the microfinance. And actually, the concept of microfinance, okay, remain the same. But when it comes to the case of Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, it is a very limited sector. Like they are not their capital, okay, is not very high. Their capital turnover ratio for the poor farmers are very little. But whenever we are discussing Malaysia and some other countries, actually the microfinance philosophy and modus operandi is applied, but they are doing very good business. Okay, they are even though focusing on small and micro enterprises. Okay, someone has small shops, they can get the microfinance loan. Okay, and they can expand the shops, they can make the various extension of the shops by including various product diversifications in their businesses. So Malaysian government is actually contributing a lot to the Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia, and they are actually the Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-based Malaysian government. This wings of the ministry is directly supporting the Islamic microfinance institution, particularly the Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia. And there are some banks that are also especially designed for the microfinance, and they can give a lot of support, particularly Bank Rakyat, agro banks, Bank Simpani, and like National Malaysia. They give a lot of support to the micro loans, and some of them are also following the Islamic principles. Not all of them, but we can say that majority of the microfinance institutions are supported by the in Malaysia. They are run by the Islamic principle. And Indonesia, okay, it was first introduced in 1990s, and we know that in Indonesia it is also very popular concept of microfinance. And if not at a very large scale, people are also getting loan, even though for their small businesses, a small micro unit of their businesses, those who are actually doing agricultural business, various types of agro business. And we know that Baitul Mal or Tamil is BMT is also a very popular microfinance providers that is very expanding with lot of states. I am sure there are a lot of studies if you are interested to work on, because I know that there are already many studies on this BMT microfinance providers. They also get some banking supports. So actually, I think the success story of Islamic microfinance in Malaysia and particularly in Indonesia, they are very high compared to other countries. So even though, particularly in Bangladesh, we invented the microcredit, and later on we have Islamic microfinance. But I through my observations, okay, and based on some of the findings, I guess that microfinance, Islamic microfinance, is more successful in Malaysia and Indonesia, particularly in compared to some South Asian countries. Some MENA regions, we have noticed that like Yemen, Syria, there are also microfinance programs, and it is being supported by the bank. But the problem is that when it is supported by the bank, okay, because bank has their own goal. We know that banking philosophy is different than the philosophy of the microcredit and microfinance. Okay, so we have to be very careful in including the bank. So when the bank is providing the fund to the microfinance institutions, of course there are some rules and regulations, and we have to make sure that they are giving the loan on right instruments, particularly the Islamic instrument that we have noticed, and not focusing on the murabaha, which is mostly used. But we have to use the equity based or partnership based kind of arrangement under the Islamic microfinance. We have also noticed that in Iraq, Sudan, there are also, in Sudan is also in a case that they are also very successful in Islamic bank, and they are also successfully doing Islamic microfinance by many NGOs. For example, Sudanese Islamic Bank, Faisal Islamic Banks, Islamic Cooperative Development Bank, they are also providing the micro loans or microfinance to the poor farmers. Okay, so we have noticed that there is a lot of demand for Islamic microfinance, and most of the cases that demand is arising because of the sentiment, okay, Islamic sentiment, Islamic spirit. So it is very important to know that the demand is there. So what is the supply? Supply side of the microfinance is the microfinance institutions. So they should be giving the supply and the services, Islamic financial services. We can say that truly Islamic financial services to the clients, so that you know, it is not a kind of deceitful activities. Okay, Islamic microfinance institutions should actually provide the actual types of the truly Islamic modes of finance that I mentioned, the equity-based financing, not the cost plus or murabaha financing based, which is debt-based financing. This is very important, because when you are practicing or when you are supporting the debt-based financing, it will be very difficult to come out from this debt trap. Okay, even though we are saying that it is Islamic principle, but the borrowers will take a lot of time, number of years, to come out from the that kind of debt-based financing to the self-reliant own business ownerships. So that is there are some study that I mentioned here. All of the studies are showing that there is a lot of demand, and most of the demands are because of the Islamic sentiment, Islamic products. When there is a comparison between in the market, there is a conventional and Islamic product. Of course, at the first place, the Islamic producers, Islamic consumers, Islamic borrowers, they will select the Islamic product, Islamic microfinance institutions. But Islamic microfinance institution has to be very careful in providing their services. So we so far know that there are basically these three types of product, or we can say instruments: trading based, partnership based, and rental based. So microfinance institutions should truly practice this basically partnership based kind of contract. And also rental is also possible, but we notice that unfortunately these are being practiced. Musharaka, like murabaha kind of practice is mostly dominant in the microfinance sector. We are criticizing the Islamic bank, and we are also criticizing the Islamic microfinance institutions in many countries, because they are also falling under this trap. And one of the reason is that most of the microfinance institutions are backed or supported by the bank. So because bank don't want to lose their money, bank don't want to take the risk, even though it is Islamic bank, they really have the deficiency, they really have the problem or difficulty in come over that kind of fear. So that if they give the money, there is some, we know the conventional thing, information asymmetry, moral hazard. So these are the problem of giving loan. But of course, if we cannot also claim the microfinance institutions, we have to also give the claim to the borrowers, because most of the cases it is being observed that borrowers, you know, when they take the money, they don't utilize it properly. So this is also true. That is one of the reasons why the funder or Islamic microfinance producer, they don't adopt this kind of practices. There are some other type of microfinance, which is zakat or sadaqah or waqf based microfinance institutions. So our main target will be focusing on our discussions on waqf based microfinance, which is also very popular. We'll come to that point at the end of our discussion, but we'll try to see some characteristics of Islamic microfinance and its challenges. Okay, and we know that also the Islamic microfinance institution has also the similar type of challenges, like limited outreach. So conventional microfinance institution has this challenge, but Islamic microfinance institution has more of this challenge because the Islamic microfinance institution is costly. We know the costly because of it, because of these four philosophical basis. In order to maintain that, it becomes very costly. And even in a remote area, if they go to the remote area to disburse or to give the loan, it becomes also very costly to the Islamic microfinance institution. That is why it is still limited compared to the conventional loan. Secondly, regulations and supervision. So this is also another main challenge, because every institutions, every country there is a microfinance regulatory authority. Okay, so microfinance regulatory authority are designed or set up by the conventional mind. Okay, so not many countries, for example, in Malaysia there is a microfinance regulatory board, and under the ministry there is a Islamic board. Okay, Islamic scholars, Islamic policy makers who are designing the policy and the regulatory rules for supervising the Islamic microfinance. But a country like, for example, Bangladesh, we don't have that kind of rule. We have microfinance regulatory authority, but that authority are making the rule for both conventional and Islamic microfinance in the same rule. So how it is possible that you are killing the bird with one stone, two types of bird, but with one stone, but that one stone is not capable of killing two types of bird? So meaning that you need different type of strategy, you need different type of regulation, because Islamic microfinance institutions are facing different market risks. There is a different regulations, different terms and conditions when they are paying the loan. They cannot simply get the money back with interest. So there are many regulations. For example, Islamic microfinance regulatory authority should make the certain rule that at what conditions the borrowers can excuse from the loan, or what condition they can delay the loan. If they delay the loan, that what policy that the microfinance institutions can apply to recollect the loan. Okay, so there are many ways that makes the differences in terms of regulation and supervision of two types of institutions. But it is a challenge, because most of the cases, most of the country, Islamic microfinance institutions are regulated and supervised under the conventional setup, except for few countries. Regulations, this is the same things that I mentioned. So poor governance and management, it is also a kind of lackings for the Islamic microfinance institutions, because Islamic microfinance institutions are not still in some cases started with new concept, new idea, new market. So they don't get the skilled manager, skilled manpower to handle their fund. And of course, there is some sort of difficulty and challenges in auditing and management of the fund from the borrowers and the providers, microfinance provider perspective. So because of that may also create the losses of the microfinance institutions. And if there is a losses, it is in the long run, it is very difficult to sustain in the market, because we know it is a competitive market. So here I am just sharing with you on a study. Okay, the reference is here. The 20 years research in microfinance. This is a information management approach, because I didn't include many research finding here. Okay, because I know this is for you, some of you, the microfinance is a new concept. Okay, you are learning. So I give emphasize on the operational side, or how it works, or principal side, and the rules and regulations side. But I didn't show it the empirical side, because I guess that all of you are undergraduate students. But I think if there is a chance, then I can share some other day on the empirical side of the microfinance, that what area you can focus on in your research. But for a quick view, you can see that microfinance study that took from 2013 and 2017. These are some country. Okay, for example, in Bangladesh, many countries are happening in Bangladesh. It is mostly then India. There are some other countries where, as you can see, some African countries here, okay, as well as some other country, and they also take into consideration what are the subject, okay, what are the area they focuses on empowerment, okay, women empowerment, rural credit programs, microcredit, poverty. We notice that so poverty is mostly covered by the microfinance study, and it is from the target group is from the women and their empowerment, rural credit. And there is some also study that is focusing on repayment performance. There are some difficulties or challenges of microfinance institutions. As you can see, there are many areas that they focuses, but we can see there are two dimensions. One is the operational and one is the organizational and the target groups. Okay, I think this is the same thing that we have noticed that in the previous slide. So this is a kind of a table that gives you the idea what topics are appearing in the publications or research, at what is the percentage, in which area. We notice that in Asia it is being highlighted all the time, very highest percentage compared to other country, followed by Africa, Latin America. And most of the cases, it is being highlighted on the poverty in rural area, okay, but sometimes it is also focusing on the performance, development, health, and other subsectors, okay, in the economy. Okay, now let us focus on our third segment of the presentations, which is Waqf institutions. So what is Waqf? So Waqf institutions is basically is a very wider concept. Okay, Awqaf is the plural of Waqf. Okay, it is actually an institutions, okay, that provides all type of services to the society. These institutions are very powerful in the Islamic civilizations. If we discuss the history, particularly in the Ottoman Caliphate times, so this institution was very powerful in the sense that the citizens of this Ottoman emperor, they receive all sort of services, okay, starting from the education, health, okay, and even though the job, okay, every aspects, we can say socio-economic services are being provided by these institutions. But these institutions was unfortunately devastated. This institution unfortunately remain unutilized, ignored for many years. So recently there is a revival of the we can say over the last 20-30 years. Scholars are being inventing or rethinking to bring back these institutions so that it can contribute to the socio-economic development, particularly in the education sectors, and not only in the education sector but also in the sector that can directly help to increase your country's economic growth and development. So we are actually going to our discussions from these Waqf institutions to see how these institutions can be helpful in promoting economic development, particularly by looking at the lower segment of the economy. So as I mentioned that there are basically many challenges of these Waqf institutions that are facing over the last centuries. That is why these institutions became an idle institutions, okay, very unproductive institutions. So, and we have noticed that in previous years, these institutions sufficiently address the needs of the people, poor people, okay. Poor people need what? They need food, they need health support, they need educational support, they need shelter, okay. All the 5 basic needs that the poor people need, actually this institution supported. And supported means that they can support the poor people, and when they are established, then they can get out of the net and they can start their new business. So this is a kind of supportive we can say platform that institutions work as before, but nowadays we didn't see that kind of support. But recently this over the last 10 years or 15 years, people are thinking how to manage this waqf properties, okay? Because on almost every countries, particularly the Muslim countries, there are lot of waqf properties. Even in the non-Muslim countries, there are some resources we call endowment, okay? Many, like Harvard University, McGill University, and many university, we know that there's a lot of research fund, and these research funds are coming from the endowment fund. When they got the endowment from some person, okay, and then they invest it, okay, with the investment, and with the increment of money, they can run the various types of research and development projects. So in Muslim countries, we notice that most of the waqf properties, which was very active, which was very productive before, but without utilizing for many years, it becomes unutilized. So there is a sense of revival of that kind of waqf properties in the Muslim countries, but the challenge is that it requires both legal, or we can say the legal support, as well as the funding supports, okay? Because you have the property, but you need some management, waqf management, waqf law. You should have some kind of donors who can also further support, so that the waqf resources can be better utilized. So people are, as I mentioned, that over the last 20 years, many research have been published on how these waqf institutions can be revived in a way that it can alleviate poverty, it can eradicate poverty. Because going through the previous literature, going through the history, we notice that these institutions provided a lot of support, okay? But in relation with that support, as I mentioned, the health support, their education support, their economic support, but all the supports to the poor, it is given by the microfinance institutions nowadays. But these microfinance institutions, as we have just discussed, is facing the problem of cost, okay? Like their cost is high. There is also funding problem. So that is why the scholars are proposing to integrate the concept of waqf resources into the microfinance. I can say this is not conventional, because waqf is Islamic institution, and of course we are discussing the Islamic microfinance terms. So how this waqf can integrate in a way that can support the financial support to the Islamic microfinance institution, so that it can increase its outreach, okay? It can increase its outreach, it can increase the number of borrowers, okay, participants, it can increase the scalability, okay? It can, in that case, enjoy the economies of scale, it can increase the infrastructure as well, and other supported that I will shed light on in our upcoming slides. So this is the concept of integration. So not this, our concept was that waqf should be only used for religious purposes. Only someone contributed the land, and land should be used for either for prayer, either for building mosque or madrasa, or religious institutions, or Islamic religious educational institutions only. So this was confined to only that concept over the last few decades. But last 10 to 15 years, so people are thinking, the researchers are thinking how to utilize this waqf in a economically productive way, so that it can generate the fund, it can generate the income. So we are going to discuss the model, okay? Actually, this model, let me give some brief idea on this integrated waqf-based Islamic model. When I was in Malaysia, okay, I am doing my PhD. Actually, this is also a part of my PhD thesis, when I focuses on integrated waqf-based Islamic microfinance model in Bangladesh perspectives, okay? But this is a project that was run by International Islamic University, Malaysia, and CESRIC. CESRIC is a research and statistical database covering the OIC countries. So there is a joint research was conducting between these two institutions, okay? And the objective was to revive these waqf institutions and to support the Islamic microfinance institutions. So we took 3 countries, okay, actually 6 countries, and we cover Indonesia, we cover Malaysia, we cover Pakistan, we cover Bangladesh, we cover Nigeria, we cover Sudan. Okay, so this country, actually I visited also Indonesia in Bogor to attend a workshop on this social finance workshop. You know, social finance means it includes waqf, zakat, and sadaqah, and other Islamic tools with financial models. So that is the group. I think that you can see that this is some of our publications from this group. And the model that I am going to share with you, this is actually outcome of our joint research with this CESRIC and our IIUM research team. We have Professor Aslam, Dr. Mustafa Omar. We have also Professor Ataullah Paramanik, and some other from the CESRIC side. So the model that we develop, I will show you in the next slide. Okay, we have this shareholder, or we can say a stakeholder, the waqf donors, waqf recipients, okay, religious bodies, managers. So these are all related to the waqf institutions. Then the Islamic microfinance institutions, okay, investors, managers, owners of Islamic microfinance institutions, then the customers and the clients of Islamic microfinance institutions. As we can see that the donors or work managers, they will actually, someone will donate the waqf, okay, someone will make the, it can be cash waqf mostly, okay, that can be cash waqf certificates can be given. So this cash waqf is a certificate holder of cash waqf will contribute to the poverty alleviations through Islamic microfinance institutions, okay, all the costs related to the institutions, okay, it will be taken care of by the fund generated, okay, because when you are financing, project financing, there will be some income, okay, there will be some income generation. Some of the income will be going for the cost of the fund, okay, cost of the office, organizations, cost of the waqf managers, okay, everything, and there will be some, if any profit, then it will be received by the certificate holder, cash waqf certificate holder, for example. And in the same time, in the model, beside the project financing, sorry, any questions you have? Okay, so in the project financing can be any project. So of course there will be some scrutiny of the project before they give the fund. It can be a small project, it can be medium projects, it can be agro-based project. Mostly it is agro-based project because it is designed for the poverty alleviations. Okay, poverty alleviation, people this is the poor people, or the people who have low income. So it is expecting that their income will increase, their saving will increase, their asset will increase, they can also further invest, and they can be reducing the poverty. And since this is agro-based, since this is the project financing, of course there is a takaful or Islamic insurance concept is there in order to save the borrowers, in order to save the project, in order to save the product from the natural or unseen events that might be happen. And in this model, our main model was based on the partnership kind of model. So we propose that we mostly, even though we write murabaha, but we most of the time we propose that this model will be effective, 100% effective or fruitful if we imitate or if we apply partnership based or equity based financing. And of course we need to also provide human resources, and every human resources, the training, it will be financed from the Waqf fund through the Islamic microfinance programs. Okay, so end result will be people will be coming out from the poverty. I think I have discussed everything from my discussions, because here there is a very slight discussion is here. So if you are interested, so please you can go back to the references for more details on this IMIM model. So in the last segment of my presentation, I can say that this model, which is our main discussions, which is integrated work-based Islamic microfinance model, will be actually, it is not only giving the financial flow, but it's also real flow, real transactions. Real transaction mean that this this model is also helping the borrower to upgrade their skills, which is important for their self-employment, or to be self-sufficient in their respective businesses. Although we showed here Waqf, but Zakat and other charity funds can be used here in the models. Okay, Takaful, that we said that it is a safeguarding option for the model, which is also in enhancing the cooperations among the participants in the models. Because if anyone is becoming physically ill, or if his business is also affected badly, then it will also support it from the Takaful financing. And we know that Waqf is also very important for the human resource development. In the past history of literature history, we noticed that Waqf can be used for education. So, but here Waqf resources will be used by the Islamic financial institution, Islamic microfinance institutions, for upgrading the human resource skills for the borrowers, or we can say participant of the model. So there can be various variations in the model. It can be various, we know there are different forms, instruments of Islamic microfinance, like Murabaha, Mudaraba, Musharaka, Bayal Istisna, Bayal Salam. So any of the model can be adopted with these frameworks. So what will be happening, this will help to conduct the project financing, because in most of the cases, Islamic financial institutions like microfinance, Islamic microfinance institutions, they are reluctant. Okay, they don't encourage to finance project financing, because there is a possible loss. But in our model, as we can see, that there is also Islamic insurance, which is Takaful. There is supported by the because when the investor, they will buy the Waqf certificate, they are also taking the risk. So here there is nothing worried about the Islamic microfinance institutions. So Islamic microfinance institutions are providing their skills, their manpower, but they are executing the spirit of true Islamic financial transactions through the involvement of Waqf. So as I mentioned that they can also improve their infrastructure. Okay, any Islamic like Waqf resources can be also used for developing infrastructure, training center, health center. Okay, that here it is designed for basically the Islamic microfinance borrowers or participants, but it can have some multi-purposes. Okay, multi-purposes uses, because we know that if something is used for Waqf, that no one can be the owner, and the service will be given for the sustainable time for perpetuity of the uses of the resources will be given. And as I mentioned that this will be helpful to increase their training, and also their health and education will be well protected. So borrowers will be feeling comfortable with the model, with the yes, I am just finishing in 2 minutes times. So just so this implementing this model is actually giving the avenue for not only the Waqf resources, unused Waqf resources will be utilized properly. Islamic microfinance institutions, they can mitigate their challenge, particularly when the fund is coming from the Waqf donors, and borrowers or participants, they can be also giving various services, financial and non-financial services. But here in asterisk is mentioned that this IMIM model can be applied in different situations, different cases. Okay, like in COVID-19, many countries are facing a drastic situations where people are shutting down their business, people are poor, they cannot get support fund. So even though this kind of situations, this UMIM model can be applied to those people who are affected by the COVID-19 in order to set up their business so that they can increase their income generating activities, and they can gradually come to the mainstream of their business over the course of time. So I think that's all about my presentation on microfinance, particularly Islamic microfinance and work-based or the viability of Islamic microfinance program. I think I try my best to give my inputs to you. I don't know how well you understand. How was my language? It might be difficult, but please don't hesitate to ask me any questions if you have, please.
Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Dr. Muhammad Fouad Amin about very nice presentations. Yeah, the topic is microfinance, Islamic microfinance. Okay, I will give one participant to deliver the questions, opinions, or comment, please. Maybe. I give one opportunity for participant to give opinions, comments, or questions.
Pak Imam, I have one question.
Okay, please. Please, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Imam, for the time given to me. Dr. Fouad, thank you for your very enlightening presentations. Actually, looking at Wakaf, it is very interesting issue. And then right now in Indonesia, everybody now evolving the idea on how to make the Wakaf at the center of social activities, and then has been intensively promoted either in the government sectors and also in the non-government sectors. But the problem somehow that still in my mind is that how the risk management concept of the Wakaf institution itself. Because you see that when you talk about the integration between the Wakaf and also the Islamic microfinance, we talk about two agencies, the funding agencies and implementing agencies, isn't it? So how to develop the risk management concept when dealing with the Wakaf institution itself, whereby we know that the Wakaf, the asset of the Wakaf must be retained, isn't it? Cannot be degraded, it cannot be diminished over the time. This is the issue that I want to get your idea and feedbacks concerning with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Fouad.
Okay, Dr. Dimas, thank you for this very important questions, because as you mentioned that Waqf resources, okay, there are different type of resources that can be used for this model. Okay, if it is a land, okay, that is different. If it is a building, that is different. And if it is cash Waqf, that is also a different treatment for the risk management. So I guess that you are asking for the risk management for the people who are contributing to this model and buying the cash Waqf certificates. So what sort of risk management tools that can be applied in this model where Waqf resources should be the principal amount should be intact. So here the basic guideline is that we know that there is a different types of project financing. Okay, we know that when you invest in high risky business, okay, high risky business is high return and low risky business with low return. So here the risk management under the model, the people particularly from the Islamic microfinance institution side, they should employ, here we assume that someone should be taking care of the risk management aspects of the model. So they have to manage the risk. Okay, so they have to manage the risk and they have to sort the project. They have to evaluate the project before they finance the project. So evaluation of this evaluation process, of course, this evaluation process will reduce the risk. And again, there can be also different types of project, as I mentioned. So at the end, when your high risk, high return and low risk, low return types of projects, you have for example 10 projects, and you have in mixture of both high risk and low risk, high return and low return. So at the end, when you do average, so we know that the average will cancel out the possible risk that is associated with the project financing in the long run. Okay, but of course the risk management manager, they should be very much carefully and critically evaluate the model. That is why we have this human resources aspects, which is related to training, which is related to the educations, which is related to the marketing, which is related to the market risks of their product. At the same times, we have also takaful elements. So these two elements, the takaful and human resource aspects of the model, is actually mitigating the risk of risk factors.
Okay, thank you, the Honorable Dr. Muhammad Fouad Amin and Mr. Dimas Bagus, and all participants, because the time is limit, so we can close our meeting, or maybe there are closing remark from Mr. Dimas, maybe. No. Okay, thank you, the Honorable Mr. Fouad Amin, Dr. Muhammad Fouad Amin.
Okay, I also welcome, and I want to also thank you all, Dr. Dimas, and particularly the head of the Department of Economics, Dr. Imaduddin, for giving me the opportunity to share my little experience with my little knowledge with your students. I hope that they learn something, they can implement it, they can relate it to their microeconomics knowledge, and when they will focus on their fourth year, and maybe in the masters, they can also explore more of this concept by expanding and replicating in their research titles. So I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, thank you very much, the Honorable Mr. Fouad Amin. And we can close our meeting by pre-kafaratul majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.